Hey gang, did you ever have to stretch before getting on your bike? Or worse, after? If so, this one's for you. You know what I noticed the other day? My pre-ride ritual now includes ibuprofen, a hamstring stretch, and making sure that there's clean bathrooms on the route. And look, I'm not saying I'm old, but my back just sent me a cease and desist. And look, this video, it's not about poking fun. Actually, it's partly about poking fun. Actually, scratch that. It's totally about poking fun, but it's also about calling out all of those secret things us seasoned riders do, but never really talk about. Because let's be honest, somewhere along the way, comfort started mattering more than horsepower. We became the guys with zip ties and emergency snacks, and our saddlebags, yeah, they're basically survival kits. So if you've noticed a few, let's call them upgrades in your riding life, stick around. You might just be an aging biker. And that's not a bad thing to be. In fact, it might just be our best chapter yet. Now look, I've been riding for a long time, long enough to remember when all I needed for a road trip was a full tank of gas and a bad idea. Long enough that my first bike had no choke, no fuel injection, and the suspension was basically hopes and prayers. And over the years, things have changed. Not the bikes, but me. Nowadays, I psych myself up for a ride like I'm heading into a CrossFit competition. Touch the toes, roll the neck, wiggle the knees to see which one's gonna act up today. And yeah, I used to laugh at people doing stretches, and now I am people doing stretches next to a motorcycle. And lately, I've started to notice a few things, a few signs that maybe, just maybe, I'm not the young wild thing I used to be. Like, when did mesh gear become more exciting than leather gear? Or when did riding with a Bluetooth headset become absolutely mandatory? Or when did I become the one giving the advice? I used to get the advice. Now I'm telling my 21-year-old why chain maintenance is life and death. So I made a list, a highly scientific and extremely accurate checklist. Because if you check off multiple of these signs, well, my friend, welcome to the club you never asked to join. Man, I used to get up and grab my keys and just go ride. No prep, no warm up, just jeans, boots, and good vibes. If I stretched at all, it's because I slept funny, not because I was about to pull a muscle throwing a leg over an 800-pound land yacht. Nowadays, I got a full routine. I stretch like I'm about to enter the Tour de France. We're talking hamstrings, calf pumps, neck rolls, and some weird shoulder thing I saw in a YouTube video called Mobility for Aging Athletes. And spoiler alert, it works. And the ibuprofen? Oh, it's not optional. It's part of the ritual. Right after I check my tire pressure sensors, I pop two and say a little prayer to St. Advil, patron saint of older riders with tight lower backs. What's wild is I used to laugh at people who did this stuff. Like, really? You need to stretch before you go ride? Now I am that guy. I don't even start the ignition until my lower back gives me the thumbs up. One time I forgot to flex and my hip flexor Charlie horsed right at a stoplight. I had to roll to the curb and dismount like I was vaulting off a horse after a cattle drive and pretend I meant to do it. I played it off cool though. But yeah, I'm still kind of sore just thinking about it. These days, the bike's ready before I am. But hey, if a 5-minute stretch and a couple of Advil help keep me riding longer, I'll limber up every single time. Remember when all you needed for a ride was your keys, a half-charged phone, and maybe a stick of gum? That was it. You were young, invincible, and clearly not planning for anything. I'd throw on a jacket, maybe stick a folding knife in my pocket, and then hit the road like I'm starring in some low-budget biker movie. Saddlebag? Yeah, I didn't even have one. I figured if I couldn't solve it with spit, bootlaces, or denial, it wasn't worth solving. Now, I pack like I'm prepping for a FEMA deployment. Let me break it down for you. I've got ibuprofen, obviously, backup pair of gloves, an emergency poncho, first aid kit, snack bars, wet wipes, lip balm, 2 microfiber towels because God forbid I get a smudge on my visor at sunset. Oh, and an extra portable power bank for my portable power bank. And that's just the left saddlebag. At this point, my gear weighs more than the actual motorcycle. I could survive a surprise blizzard, fix a flat, and host a small picnic at a scenic overlook. And I have. Younger riders look at me like I'm paranoid. Nah, son, I'm experienced. I've seen things. I've learned. I know what happens when you ride 200 miles in the rain with no snacks and no toilet paper. That kind of trauma leaves a mark and a checklist. And listen, I'm not embarrassed. I like being prepared. When I open my saddlebags, I don't see clutter. I see peace of mind. Also, possibly a pharmacy and half of an REI aisle, but mostly peace of mind. And don't get me started on rain gear. I used to be like, yeah, whatever, I'll get wet, I'll dry off. Now it's base layer, waterproof liner, overpants, and rain gloves that cost more than my first paycheck. If I'm getting wet, it better be because I walked into a car wash by mistake. It's kind of wild. I used to look like a biker. Now I look like REI sponsored me for a weekend tour of suburbia. But hey, comfort matters. Preparation matters. And if packing an entire survival kit means I'm not freezing, starving, or regretting my life choices halfway through a ride, load it up, baby. All right, let me take you back. There was a time, maybe you remember it, when the louder your pipes, the cooler you were. Straight pipes, shorties, slip-ons that sounded like you angered a thunder god. That, my friends, was the dream. We used to say, loud pipes save lives. Now I'm like, nah man, loud pipes cause tinnitus. I remember loving that deep rumble bouncing off tunnel walls. These days, I flinch when a sport bike flies by like a jet engine with handlebars. My hand goes to my ears before it even hits the rev limiter. And I used to ride without a helmet, just to feel the freedom. Now I wear a full face helmet with a neck roll, a chin curtain, and a noise reduction liner. And I still walk away wondering if that one guy on the GSXR gave me permanent nerve damage when he flew by at 9,000 RPM. And don't get me wrong, I still love the sound of a deep, throaty V-twin engine. It's a beautiful thing. But I also love being able to hear my spouse when I get home. Or birds. Or anything other than that internal tea kettle whistle that's been boiling since Bike Week 2009. That's why I've got earplugs in every pocket. I've got foamies, filter earplugs, and even a backup pair in a little waterproof case I keep next to my spare batteries. I'm like a hearing protection prepper. Yeah, it's funny how priorities shift. I used to want to shake windows. Now, I just want to finish a ride without feeling like I've been sitting next to a jet engine for the last hour. Yeah, there was a time when picking a riding route meant one thing: curves. The more twists, the better. Gas stations? That was optional. Bathroom breaks? Pfft, who needs them? But these days, before I take a ride, I'm mapping out fuel stops like I'm planning a cross-country expedition. And checking which ones have clean restrooms and a good coffee machine. Yeah, you know you're riding old when your favorite twisty road loses points because there's no decent gas station within 60 miles. Like, yeah, it's scenic, but does it have a restroom that doesn't look like it came out of a horror movie? And let's be honest, gas station stops just aren't the same. When I do stop, it's no longer a NASCAR-style pit crew moment. Now, it's a full-on intermission. Pull in, fuel up, crack the back like bubble wrap, check the weather, rehydrate, maybe grab a snack, maybe debate whether I need another snack, and then remember I actually stopped for the bathroom in the first place. I've even developed opinions, strong ones, on which gas stations have the best restrooms. One place near Dahlonega had eucalyptus-scented soap, and I swear that shit changed my life. At this point, I've got favorite gas stations based on how soft their toilet paper is and whether or not they've got benches outside. I'm basically a rest stop sommelier. And hey, I'm okay with it. I'm not in a rush. I'm out for the ride, not the record. And if that means a few more pit stops to keep the old body running smooth, I'll take that over limping through the last half of the ride every time. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in one of those rides and somebody says something like, we're gonna go hit the mountain, it's gonna be awesome. And you look at your watch and it's almost midnight and it's raining outside. And instead of getting all hyped, your spine just clenched and you thought, yeah, I'm too old for that shit. Yeah, that's your sign. There was a time when I would say yes to any ride, anytime, any conditions. Middle of the night, let's go. Thunderstorm in the forecast? Challenge accepted. Sketchy shortcut down a gravel road with bald tires and zero common sense? Hey, sounds like an adventure. I'm in. But now I ask questions. Like, how bad is the weather? How's the road surface? What's the likelihood that I'll spend the next day icing my knees and regretting my life choices? Now, I check the weather like a goddamn weatherman. Twice. And if something smells like a bad decision, I'm out. No drama, no guilt, just a calm and confident, yeah, I'm too old for that shit. There's a kind of wisdom that comes with mileage, not just on your odometer, but on your bones. And one day you realize surviving a sketchy ride doesn't make you cool. It just means you got lucky. Again. So now when the young bucks say, let's go rip it up in the storm, I'm eyeing the radar, sipping my coffee and saying, yep, y'all go have fun. And you know what? There's no shame in that. I don't need to prove anything. I have earned my miles. I've slid on gravel, I've ridden in hail, I've ignored the warning signs. Now, I read the warning signs like bedtime stories. Oh, I'll still ride fast when it's right, and I'll still push it when the road calls for it. But reckless for no reason? Pfft, that's a young man's game. Me, I like getting home in one piece, sleeping in my own bed, and waking up without needing a full body scan. You know you've crossed a certain line when you're no longer the one getting rescued. You're the one doing the rescuing. At some point, without even knowing it, you became the roadside dad. The guy with the tools, the zip ties, the tire plug kit, the backup phone charger, and the actual knowledge on how to fix stuff. You didn't plan to become the group's safety net. It just happened. Years of trial and error and roadside frustration turned you into the AAA of your riding group. And you didn't even apply for the job. I can't tell you how many times I've rolled up on some young dude on the side of the road, sweating bullets over a blown fuse or a dead battery. Meanwhile, I'm reaching into my saddlebag like Mary Poppins, pulling out a voltmeter and a jumper box and a peanut butter sandwich. And suddenly I felt like I'd leveled up to full biker dad mode. And of course you have to give the speech and you try to be cool about it. And you're like, hey man, maybe carry some basic tools next time. But inside, you're just shaking your head like a disappointed uncle. Because let's be honest here, you were that dude once. Probably worse. Actually, definitely worse. And you know what? It feels good. It's like earning a merit badge, except not for riding fast, for riding smart. You're the calm in the chaos, the duct tape in the disaster. That weird uncle who shows up just in time with the fix, and a sarcastic movie quote that's somehow a poignant life lesson. Yeah, there was a time when all I cared about was speed and torque. I'd argue over dyno charts, read reviews about torque curves, and daydream about mods that would add 5 more ponies that I'd probably never use. Horsepower was everything. I wanted a bike that snarled, barked, and threatened to buck me off the back if I even looked at the throttle wrong. Now, I care way more about how comfy the seat is. Give me cruise control, a backrest, and handlebars that don't turn my shoulders into stone after 30 minutes. Give me a ride that feels like I'm leaning into that couch from my basement in 1997. I'm not chasing top speed, I'm chasing circulation. And I'm not saying I don't appreciate a fast bike. I absolutely do. I'm just saying that if your rear suspension feels like a cinder block after 20 minutes, I don't want any part of it. These days, I will gladly trade 20 horsepower for a smoother ride and a seat that doesn't rearrange my spine every time I hit a pothole. Heck, half my upgrade list now is about ergonomics. Floorboards, highway pegs, and maybe even a cup holder. You may laugh, but that cup holder, it brings me joy. And look, I've had the fast bikes, I've gone full throttle, but at this point in life, the thrill isn't just in speed, it's in riding longer, in comfort, without needing a chiropractor at the next gas stop. So yeah, I still love motorcycles. I still want performance. But these days, if it doesn't ride smooth, keep my butt happy, and let me dismount without limping, yeah, I'm not interested. True story, I once skipped a ride on a buddy's stripped down cafe racer because the seat looked like a brick wrapped in vinyl. 20-year-old me would have scoffed at current me. But current me said, no thanks, I'll keep my kidneys right where they are. You can call it being soft, I call it being wise. Yeah, I did the math the other day, and by math I mean I looked at all my receipts and then promptly tried to forget what I saw. Because folks, my gear now costs more than my first motorcycle. No joke. My first bike, $500 and a handshake for a bike that smoked a little bit on startup and had a left mirror that spun like a fidget toy at highway speeds. It didn't even have a title, just a vague promise that it ran yesterday and a slight hint of gasoline in the air. Now, my helmet alone is $600. Add a Bluetooth comms unit, a pin lock insert, and a fancy helmet bag, and boom, we're over $1,000. And that's just on my head. And let's talk jackets. Armored, ventilated, waterproof, windproof, probably shark-proof, and made of space-age material NASA probably hasn't approved for civilian use yet. Plus pants with Kevlar linings. Yeah, they look casual, but they cost as much as a tuxedo and have more armor than a medieval knight. Then there's riding boots with reinforced ankles. And gloves. Oh, the gloves. I've got winter gloves, summer gloves, rain gloves, touchscreen gloves, gloves for riding, gloves for wrenching, and one single left glove that I can't throw away because I know it's got a partner around here somewhere. I've got more gloves than most people have shoes. So yes, these days I don't just ride a motorcycle. I wear an investment that costs more than 2 months' rent on my first apartment. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it. That gear is comfortable, protective, and just plain smart. Younger me didn't know any better, but older me knows that gear doesn't just look cool, it keeps you riding longer, which, let's be honest, that's the real flex. So yeah, maybe the rides are a little slower now. Maybe we stretch before we start the bike. Maybe our saddlebags are packed like we're prepping for the apocalypse. Maybe we avoid nighttime runs or dodge rainstorms and know where every clean bathroom is within a 100-mile radius. But here's the thing. We're still riding. We're still chasing sunsets, leaning into curves, and feeling that same old thrill every time the engine rumbles to life. Sure, we may be packing more ibuprofen than adrenaline these days, but that doesn't make the ride any less sweet. In fact, it might make it sweeter. But you know what else we got? Wisdom, experience, and stories that will make a younger rider blink twice and say, wait, you did what? We've learned how to ride smarter, how to enjoy the ride without feeling like we got something to prove. Because with age comes a whole new kind of freedom. The freedom to skip the dumb decisions, to pick roads that don't destroy your spine and actually have a decent place to grab coffee and stretch your legs. We've earned the right to be a little picky. And somewhere along the way, we became the mentors, the mechanics, the road trip planners, and the calm voice of reason in the group chat full of chaos. We're not slower, we're just more deliberate. And we're not past our prime, we're in a new chapter. A chapter where the ride means something deeper. So if you saw yourself in any of these signs, even just a little, good. That means you're still in the game. And yeah, a lot of this was satire. But you know what? Not all of it. I'm going to leave it to you to separate the fact from the fiction. And I guarantee you some of it applies to you. So if any of this hits home, drop a comment below. Share your own seasoned rider moment. And let's keep the rubber side down together.